On to the divisional round now. My best bets: 3 out of the 4 games are rematch, and the home team in the playoff game won all of the regular season games. So to get things started on Saturday, the Texans plus 9.5 at the Ravens, over under 43.5. Kind of weird to think about, but these teams played in week one. The Ravens won 25-9, and it was, the Ravens were at home in this game. This is the same spread, the exact same spread as when they played in week one, which is, are they, obviously the Texans are a lot better than people thought, but are they saying the Ravens are a lot better than we thought they were going to be? Or is this because now the Texans have to go on the road into Baltimore, a very hostile place? Just weird thinking the spread is the exact same as the week one matchup. Um, but the last time we saw the Ravens as the number one seed in the playoffs, they lost in the divisional round to the Titans, 28-12. So that's something, a cause for concern. The last time they were in this spot, and everybody thought they were the Super Bowl front runner, they lost in the divisional round, and not a very close game. Derrick Henry ran all over them. He even threw a touchdown pass against them. But can the Texans continue to ride this momentum they have? They got a lot of momentum now. I mean, people last week, a lot of people didn't give them a chance. The week before that against the Colts, nobody really gave them a chance going on the road. I definitely didn't against the Colts, and I really thought the Browns were going to play a lot better last week, but they didn't. So all props to the Texans. But the Texans are playing free. All the pressure is on Lamar and the Ravens. How do they handle that? And on the flip side, the Texans defense, they have been playing good recently, but on the road this year, they've been a little up and down. They've had their moments. I wonder what Texans defense we get this week. And I think the key for the Texans is, can they stop the run? Obviously, going up against the Ravens, if you want a chance, you're going to have to stop the run. Otherwise, the Ravens are just going to, bleed the clock, control the momentum of the game, control the tempo, and then you're playing their game. And you do not want to play the Ravens game in Baltimore. And then on the flip side, can the Ravens defense get pressure on Stroud? I think the Ravens defense is going to be able to stop the run, but are they able to get Stroud off target, off platform, and maybe make him make a mistake or two that he hasn't done much this year, which is crazy because he is a rookie. I like the Ravens minus 9.5. I was back and forth on this all week, and I'm going to go with the Ravens minus 9.5. They're at home. They're experienced. They're experienced. They're at home, and I think the defense having basically an extra 2-3 weeks to prepare, because some of these guys didn't even play in week 17, so they've gotten the rest. They're healthy. Maybe they'll come out a little sluggish, but I don't really see that being an issue. They're at home. And like I said, what happened to them against the Titans, I think they've learned from that. I know some of those people aren't on this team anymore, but still, it's still in the organization. They're going to remember that. And like I said, all the pressure is on them. I think they come out fast, they play hard, and I think they jump out on the Texans pretty early. I do know the stat, though, that Lamar is 1-9 when a 7 or more point favorite. However, his only cover, ironically, was against the Texans in week one. I know it's hard to, beat a team twice, not only beat a team twice, but to cover against a team twice when the spread is this high. But I think the Ravens get it done. I think they're on a mission, and I think they come to play. I do think Stroud does play a good game, but I think he has 1 or 2 turnovers against a really good Ravens defense. For the second game on Saturday night, we've seen this matchup over and over again. It feels like the Packers plus 9.5 at the 49ers, over under 50.5. This is the only game that is not a rematch from the regular season this week. The 49ers have been the Packers' kryptonite in the playoffs. And the question is, can Jordan Love do it against a defense that is, not relying on turnovers, that doesn't play as much man as the Cowboys? Because, last week you watched that Packers game, Packers receivers are just running wide open. And I don't think that's, when a team plays zone, that's not going to happen unless there's a bust in coverage. I don't see that happening for the 49ers. They're a sound defense. They can get pressure. They can drop, they can drop 7. They can even drop 8 if they want and rush 3. I don't know how well the Packers' run game is going to go against this really good 49ers defense. They got a great front 7. I don't think the Packers are going to be able to run the ball. So it's all going to come down to Jordan Love and these young receivers, whether or not they can make plays. And, if the offensive line can give Jordan Love time to throw the ball like they did last week. They did a really good job last week against pressure from Dallas, but I don't think the 49ers are going to pressure. I think they're going to try to get home with their 4. And then for the Packers defense, what Packers defense shows up? I think that's the question throughout the playoffs, as long as they make it, is because their defense is so up and down. Like last week, I know once the Cowboys went on that run late, the Packers thought the game was over. They weren't playing as hard, but I mean, they played great defense, through the first real 3 quarters. And if they can play like that and stop the run, they have a legitimate chance. And if they can get off the field like they did last week against the Cowboys, when it's your third and 5, 3rd and 6 and longer, if they can get off the field, that's a huge win for them. But I like the 49ers minus 9.5. I'm taking both favorites on Saturday, both number 1 seeds to cover these big spreads. I just don't think the Packers are going to be able to give Love time. They're not going to have their receivers running wide open, and I think their run game isn't going to be able to get off the ground, which is going to kill their play action, which is what Jordan Love killed the Cowboys on last week. He was killing the Cowboys on play action. And I don't think that'll happen. And then also Shanahan having an extra week to prepare, the team being able to get more healthy, that's just dangerous. And I also think the way the 49ers lost to the Eagles last year, they're on a mission. I think they come out, they win this game. And if you're a Packers fan, I mean, you're happy, but it sucks that you're going to lose again in the playoffs to the 49ers. However, if the Packers are able to win this game, they got to be the favorite to make the Super Bowl. Then in for the 2 games on Sunday. For the first one, the Bucks are plus 6.5 at the Lions, over under 48.5. The Lions won Week 6 in Tampa, 20-6. Last week, Jared Goff was really impressive in the first half. He had a great first half, but he really cooled off in the second half. And I think this week he's going to have to be able to play a full game versus the Bucks defense. This Bucks defense has started to play like they did the year they won the Super Bowl with Brady, and that was a great defense. We saw what they were able to do to Mahomes. I know people said Mahomes didn't have an offensive line, but we saw what they were able to do last week to the Eagles. Jalen Hurts had no time. They were bringing zero. They were disguising blitzes. They were playing man. They were getting in the receiver's face, and they were rallying to make a tackle. I think the Lions are really going to struggle with that. I don't know if the Lions are going to be able to run the ball. We've seen how good this Bucs defense is against the run the ball. The Eagles got completely away from the run because they weren't able to run it. And they want to make you one-dimensional. They want to make you draw back and pass it. And really for the Bucs, it all comes down to Baker. If Baker can play well, not turn the ball over, and I don't want to say manage the game, but basically manage the game because their defense is so good. They have a chance. They have a chance to make the Super Bowl. I like the Bucs plus 6.5. I think it's hard to beat an experienced team twice in a season. I know this time the Lions are at home, but it's still hard. The confidence the Bucs offense has, like you can just see it. The way Baker played last week, I think he threw for over 300 yards. I know the Eagles' defense is horrible. Their secondary sucks. Baker had people running wide open, but he also had a couple drops. If Mike Evans doesn't drop some of those passes, Baker throws for over 400 yards, which is crazy. Baker's completely changing the narrative about him, especially if he can win this game. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson will be able to get as much pressure as some people think. And I don't know how the Lions are going to match up with, Evans and Godwin, because we saw what Puka was able to do. Godwin plays the same type of position that Puka does. I think the Lions have to pick one, and I think they're going to pick Godwin because they don't want what happened last week to happen. And I think Mike Evans has a huge day. I think the Bucs are able to make the Lions drop back and pass and kind of stop the run, which in turn is not going to, is going to lead to them their play action not being as successful, not being able to get people to step up and throw it over them. And I think the Bucs are able to go into Detroit and cover this game. I think you're looking at the Lions to win by a touchdown. I think that's just a little too much. For the biggest game, everybody's talking about, can Josh Allen finally get it done against Mahomes? We have the Chiefs plus 2.5 at the Bills, over under 45.5. This might be the first time in his career that Patrick Mahomes is an underdog in the playoffs, maybe, or at least since his first year in the playoffs when he ended up losing to Brady in the conference championship at home. These teams played in Week 14, and the Bills won it 20-17 in Arrowhead. Like I said, The Bills don't have a problem beating the Chiefs in the regular season. It's in the postseason. Mahomes is 2-0 versus Allen. But this is the first time they're going to be playing in Buffalo in the playoffs, and this is the first time Mahomes is going on the road in the playoffs. I wonder, if that's going to affect him at all. I think it will. I think it's not only going to affect him, but their young receivers. Their defense is, I think their defense still plays well, but I don't think they're used to going on the road and playing. Like, they haven't played on the road in, will this be 6 years? I think it is 5 years, 6 years. They haven't played a road playoff game. That's going to be new to them. The whole day to day, the travel, all that, it's just going to, I think it's going to throw them off a little bit. And they did look their best last week. However, I don't know how much you can look into that because it was the Dolphins and it was on the road and it was so cold. We know how bad the Dolphins were on the road to begin this, during the season anyway, but then you add that cold element. I don't take it away from the Chiefs because they look good, but I wouldn't look too much into it. The question I do have, though, is if Josh Allen loses this game, what's the conversation around him? Obviously, I think if the Bills lose this game, they have to blow it up. They can't continue with this team. They have to make a change, whatever that is. But if Josh Allen doesn't win this, he's just a quarterback that puts up numbers and can't win the big game. And if he doesn't win this, I don't want to hear the conversation about Mahomes and Allen is like Brady and Manning because Allen can't beat him. The only person that can beat Mahomes is Joe Burrow. They're 1-1 against each other in the playoffs. Mahomes maybe got away with one last year. Probably should have lost that, but Joe Burrow is 3-1 against Mahomes right now. So, the Allen conversation, whatever. But back to the game. I wonder which team can get the run game going. I think that's going to be crucial. But I like the Bills money line, -135. Like I said, first road game for Mahomes. If the Bills lose, they're going to blow it up. Like I think the Bills. This is what they've been waiting for. They've been waiting for this rematch, and I think they'll be ready for it. This is the most beatable the Chiefs have been. And like I said, I don't hold much into their win last week against the Dolphins. The added element of the Bills' run game the last two and a half months of the season is crucial. The Bills have never had a run game going up against Mahomes. It's all been on Allen. Now they kind of can take that pressure off of him. Also, one added thing, I think he was elevated. He played a couple weeks ago, and if he gets I think the Bills are going to elevate him if he's not still elevated, and I think he might have a breakout game. Playoff Leonard Fournette. We saw what he was able to do in the playoffs a couple of years ago with Brady. Hasn't played that much this season. The Bills picked him up like week 12, 13. I think he's only played in spots. He played the other week. I think they bring him back and they pound Kansas City with him. I think he comes in and I think he makes a huge impact on this game, catching the ball, blocking, and running the ball for the Bills. And for my favorite player props, I have 3 for this weekend. Devin Singletary under 61.5 rushing yards. He's over this line in 5 out of his last 6. However, last week he only had 13 carries and a blowout win against the Browns. He did end up hitting this number, but against a great Ravens defense that's coming off a lot of rest and a lot of game planning, I don't think 13 carries is enough touches for him, so I like him under 61.5. Christian McCaffrey over 89.5 rushing yards. The Packers have the 28th rush defense in the NFL. I like McCaffrey to get 20-plus carries, and the 49ers kind of impose their will on this Packers defense that has been up and down all season. Mike Evans over 70.5 receiving yards. He had multiple drops last week. Without the drops, he would have hit this. He had 3 catches for 48 yards, so all of his catches last week were in big chunks, and we saw what Puka was able to do against the Lions. I know Puka went off, and then Cooper Kupp didn't have a good game, so maybe you either pick Godwin or you pick Evans for the Bucks, but I like Evans to get it. That is all I have for the divisional round in the NFL on Saturday and Sunday. We'll see you next week for the conference championships